Hi, welcome to this episode of Your Property Business, the video podcast that helps you get the most out of your own property business. I'm delighted today to be speaking with Richard Evans from Vavavoom. Richard has had a successful career in the corporate sector and his many achievements has grown a company from £2 million turnover to £65 million turnover. Richard is also a property investor. He has attended Simon Zucchi's mastermind program and he now speaks on that circuit. He's a trainer for Simon Zucchi in the service accommodation arena and has a company that allows you to hire virtual assistants to halve your time and double your profits in 90 days. So I'm delighted to welcome Richard to the screen. And we're going to say hello to Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. I've just introduced you to the listeners and viewers. But without in danger of repeating ourselves, can you just introduce yourself and see a little bit about your career and what you've done and what you've been up to?
Yeah, sure I can. I don't need to say much more. You said a lot of it, but yeah. Yeah, so I became an accidental landlord back in the mid-90s it was. I sort of found myself living in a place that was too small. There was a recession on at the time, so it was hard to sell properties back then. So I rented that out and moved into a rented house, and that's how I became a landlord.
Okay.
And at the same time as that, I as you say, I worked in the corporate world. I had quite a good corporate career. So I sort of was doing my property stuff alongside my corporate career.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 2017. I decided that I had enough of the rat race and that I wanted to focus on property full time. And I knew that if I wanted to be successful, I had to educate myself. So I went along to my very first PIN meeting. So we're talking, this would have been 2016 when I decided to go to a PIN meeting, just found out how little I knew about property. And I went on did the accelerator and then the mastermind, as you say. So educated myself. And then in my network, I was speaking to lots of different people, and I also knew that if I wanted to grow and scale my business, I couldn't do everything myself. So I took on a virtual assistant from the Philippines, and I had this VA doing lots of different things for me, different tasks, time-consuming stuff within the business, so I could focus on growing and scaling the business. And people started asking me to help them do the same, and out of that came Vavavoom.
Wow, so that's quite a whistle-stop tour of kind of what you've been up to. In terms of any light bulb moments you might have had about property, so the listeners are all the consistent theme is people are converted into property investors. What was your light bulb moment?
So, a big one for me. I've had quite a few, to be honest.
Right.
But I think probably the biggest when it came to the property side was, like I say, I was an accidental landlord. And then a couple of years later, I was watching this TV show and they were interviewing a landlord from up north who had amassed this huge property portfolio. And the interviewer said, how have you managed to get so many properties? And he then talked about how he just waited for the property value to increase, so it has some capital growth in it, and then he would remortgage that, and with the funds that released, he would then go and buy 2 or 3 more and just keep doing that. Of course, now we know that is I've forgotten the word. Momentum. That is momentum investing. I don't think there was a word for it back then. And that was really my light bulb moment. And I thought, why don't I start doing that? So that's exactly what I did. I started to release some of the equity, go and buy some more properties and start to grow the portfolio that way.
And so what was it about your, asking for help or, recruiting people? What made you do that? And why did you look to the Philippines to to sort of help you with that issue that you had?
Right. Well, so first of all, when I came out of corporate and I started working on the property full time, I just thought, well, I'm going to apply everything that I know from my corporate background to my little property business, and one of those things was not doing everything yourself, building a team, having other people within your business doing things so that you could focus. I could focus my time on the high value stuff rather than the urgent stuff. And I'd heard about virtual assistants from the Philippines and how they offered great value, and you could get really, really good people, and because the cost of living is so much lower in the Philippines, you could still pay them for what's a very good wage in the Philippines, but a whole lot less than what you have to pay for people here. So I heard about that concept. So I decided to take on a VA from the Philippines. And actually, a funny thing happened. I was a bit nervous about having somebody that I've never met, thousands of miles away, doing stuff in my business. Was I putting myself at risk? So I decided to take on another VA as well from the UK, who lived literally 10 miles up the road, to manage and police this VA that I had in the Philippines. And I got to the end of the first month, and from the VA in the Philippines, I had loads and loads and loads of tasks that had been done. And from the VA in Dunstable up the road, all I had was a big invoice. You see that I've got anything for it. So I sacked the one from the UK, and since then I've been working with VAs in the Philippines, and that's all I do. I wouldn't work with anybody VA wise from outside the Philippines right now.
No, I mean there's so many angles we can sort of talk about now, but I'm just going to sort of have a quick think about the basic principle in business of asking for help and delegating, etc. Talk to me about as a business owner, and this property podcast is very much about treating your property investments as a business, but as a business owner, why is it so important to recruit, and what do you forego if you don't do that?
Yeah. Okay. So when you're a business owner, when you're an entrepreneur, you very much have to have a mindset which revolves around value and investment rather than costs. Now, too many people, they go into business and they're looking at the cost of everything, and they try and do things, make their decisions based on how much is this going to cost me. Now, what a good business owner does, or a good entrepreneur does, is not look at the cost, but look at the value for money. So, when you're running a business, you have to look at, if I was to spend my money on this particular thing, what is that going to return to me? And Brad Sugars, he's the founder of Action Coach. He has this great saying: not employing somebody in your business is costing you a fortune. Okay, because if you are a landlord who's running your business as like a let's call them a hot dog street retailer, because I don't think you can say hot dog man anymore, or ice cream man, where you are the business. You're going out, you're buying the stock, you're getting prepared in the morning to go out and do business. You're doing the marketing by shouting out, come and buy a hot dog from me. And then you're cooking the hot dog, and then you're serving it. And then at the end of the day, you're getting all the money and you're taking it to the bank and you're banking it. The whole business surrounds you. Well, so many landlords, they do that. And of course, they then don't have time to scale and grow because they're doing it themselves. So when you switch the mindset to spending money on the right things, the things that are going to give me a return, and one of those is finding people, building a team that can do the urgent stuff. You tend to have with tasks, you have urgent stuff that must be done and must be done now. But these are really low value. They don't bring a lot of value to the business. To the other sort of tasks, which are high value, but they're not particularly urgent. So these things are strategic tasks. These are focusing on how you're going to grow the business. Perhaps your marketing, who you're going to market to. It's that stuff that doesn't matter if it doesn't get done today. It's not urgent, but it's going to bring your high value. So you can take on other people that can do those urgent, low value things, and you just focus on doing the high value stuff. And then that you grow and you scale your business, and then the money will start to roll in.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. I find it's all too easy sometimes to fall into the manual busy work because it feels good to be busy. It doesn't feel good to be sort of sat down thinking, because there's 100 things that you could do. And the truth is you can do them all, which is kind of the trap, isn't it? So I'll just go and do this, I'll just go and do that. And I guess you're right. It's doing those things is costing you more. It might be a sort of a warm feeling to kind of get a few things ticked off the list, but they're probably the wrong things in the first place.
Exactly.
No, I think that's really, really good advice. And I think it's a continual battle, isn't it, for entrepreneurs to force themselves to do less and to delegate. I think
it's having that leap of faith. You know, I mean, serviced accommodation. You know, a lot of people when they start off with serviced accommodation, you know, they're going around there and they're changing the sheets and, you know, doing the cleaning and maybe fixing a washing machine that's leaking or something like that. And they're doing all this stuff. Whereas, you know, you can pay somebody £15 an hour to do the cleaning. So, you know, if you focus on running the business and growing the business, your time is worth a whole lot more than £15 an hour. So you shouldn't be doing anything that you can pay somebody less than your hourly rate to actually do it for you.
I think that's a really good mechanism, isn't it? It makes it's a bit binary. If I earn X amount of pounds in a day, week, or month, or year, you then know what your hourly rate is. And I guess the rule is, if you can pay someone for less than your hourly rate, do that.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then maybe you need to retain that for a little bit longer until your hourly rate goes up, and then outsource it. So it's going to continual outsourcing, I guess, of tasks.
That's right. And you know, for most entrepreneurs, the reason why you want to set up your own business is, first of all, to be in control of your own destiny, and perhaps so that you're making yourself wealthy, going to your own security rather than making somebody else wealthy. So, you know, if you're an entrepreneur, you want to be at least earning, or aspire to be earning, somewhere in excess of £50 an hour. Yeah, probably, you know, if you're successful, probably quite a bit more than that. So really, even at the starting point, you should be thinking, okay, so if there's anything that needs doing that I can pay somebody less than £50 an hour to do, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, cracking. That makes a really good a good tool and, you know, decision process, I guess. So just going into the sort of the more nuts and bolts of it. So let's assume that we know that we need to get some help. We know what things we think we know what things we might outsource. Can you give us a flavour of the things that you would encourage an entrepreneur or business owner or landlord to think about outsourcing?
Yeah, well, when it comes to outsourcing, okay, outsource everything and only do the strategic stuff. So that is how I now run my businesses.
Okay.
Now, perhaps you can't do that from day one, okay, but the sort of things, first of all, that you can outsource, I would suggest, because VAs are going to be the lowest cost for you. So perhaps when you start off, you start thinking, okay, so what are those admin and time-consuming stuff? Anything that can be done from behind a computer, where you don't actually, you know, not viewings and things like that. You don't have to be in the same room, but it can be done from a computer. Those are the things you start off outsourcing. So all those admin things, you know, let's say you're running a HMO business, or that's what you want to do. So the first thing is sourcing. So virtual assistants can actually look for the opportunities for you. They can crunch the numbers. They can do landlord letters and all of this sort of thing. They can identify what area you want to be sourcing in, you know, good areas and bad areas, getting all this data, analyzing areas, and then doing the actual marketing to actually try and find deals. So that is all VA stuff. And then, you can spend your weekend then doing viewings, not going on the internet looking for deals that you can make view next week, by which time somebody else has already got them. So, have your VA doing that during the week, and then on a Saturday and a Sunday, you can do the viewings. That's the first thing. Then when you've actually got some deals, then all that property management stuff, listing rooms on spareroom.com, taking the inquiries, qualifying the inquiries. Once the viewing's been done and somebody says they want to proceed, then raising the ASTs, getting all the documentation done, registering deposits, all that stuff, that's all VA work. Even, when it comes to the finances, reconciliation, running your reports, everything there, making sure that credit control, making sure that rents are coming in on time, all VA stuff. So all of this sort of thing, even when it comes to, for anybody that's done any training with Simon talks about telling everybody what you do so that everybody knows that you're a property investor, that you're looking for deals. And then people will come to you. But you can do that through social media and through email marketing, and you don't have to do it yourself. So again, it's all VA work.
I mean, we met about 5 years ago, and you introduced me to the world of outsourcing and using VAs particularly. And I remember one which was, if you're taking on a new bit of software, for example, my immediate reaction was, cool, right, okay, I'll do that. I'll learn how to use it. I'll do some videos. I'll figure out the best way, and I'll hand it over. And the mind shift was, don't do that. Give the login and ask for someone else to train you, or just train themselves. And I think that was a bit of a mind. You don't have to know everything. I mean, you totally should not know everything. So we've got several bits of software where I kind of know a bit about it, but I'm not the main user, and the VA support are much more capable of doing the job than I am, or my team are. So I think what you've done for our business is expand the scope of the types of things and types of responsibilities you can give to your team who happen to be in a different country.
Yeah. As you do grow and as you scale and you've got a bigger team and your team are doing stuff for you so you don't have to, you actually know less and less about all that noisy day-to-day stuff. So, I do serviced accommodation, HMOs, single lets, all of those things. I don't know how to use Takit. I don't know how to use Arthur. I know a little bit about Xero, but not that much, because I just don't need to. I've got other people that are doing this stuff and they're doing it every day. So why do I need to know how to use the software? You really, really don't. So, yeah. And actually another good point there, Chris, is it's not just about having VAs. If you want to grow and scale, you need to put systems in place. You need to systemize your business. And what we mean by that is you've got to be using software to automate what you do. You've got to have a process, which is a way of doing things, the steps that you follow to achieve the various outcomes and tasks that you need to have done. And then the third bit is the people, having a virtual assistant or somebody else that is doing this stuff for you. So, you can't have one without the other. And often people get it wrong. A lot of people, I get people coming on to me and they say, I've tried to using a virtual assistant and it hasn't really worked out for me. And there's common mistakes that people make. And this is one of them. It's no point in having a virtual assistant if you haven't got, a CRM system and a property management software and, the various different things and having that process. So, one of the things we do is when people say, right, okay, yeah, this all sounds well and good. Let's give this a try. We will tell you what software you want to use. Okay, so this is the best software to achieve the various different things. We're doing this all the time. We are sourcing properties. We're managing properties. We're doing marketing. So we know. So you don't have to work it out for yourself. We will tell you what the software is. We will give you the process so that business is going to run efficiently, and then we will give you the virtual assistant that's trained in the software and the process.
No, that's smashing. I mean, yeah, got lots of nuggets there. In terms of what the main misconceptions are, do you think, of working with a VA? Have you got? We touched on some of the mistakes that people make. Can you explore that a little bit more?
Yeah, so in the early days, well, in fact, one of the reasons why I first started out is, people would come to me in my network. I don't know, you might have been one of them, Chris. I can't remember that far back now. But people would come to me and say, I've tried working with a virtual assistant and it didn't really work out. So I would ask those questions. One of the things that people say is, or said is, well, I had a virtual assistant for a while and everything seemed to be going fine. And then they suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth and I couldn't get hold of them. And I think that, again, that's one of the misconceptions. Or people think, well, they're never going to do it as well as I do or as quick as I can do it. People are obviously overrate how good they are at doing things, especially the sort of things where you're not in your flow. So, it is really important that when you're taking on a virtual assistant, you have a way of delegating the tasks. You're using something like Trello or Asana to keep track of tasks and delegate the tasks and give them all the information that they need and set due by dates and this sort of thing. That you've got a way of letting them to log on to your various different bits of software securely. So, using some password sharing software. So having reports coming back, knowing how to communicate, not some people would say, I'd say, how do you delegate tasks to your VA? And they said, well, I just ring them up and I tell them what I want done. Well, no, you can't. You've got to have a proper way of doing this and, communicating well, using Zoom, using video, all these sorts of things. Understanding the culture is another big one. If you don't, if you're working with somebody that's thousands of miles away, that's got a completely different culture, then it's really, really important that you understand their culture and that they understand our culture as well. So these are all the sort of things that we give you mentoring and guidance on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the support that your company gives, I think, is invaluable. I think it increases the chance of success tenfold, really, because I think you avoid the main mistakes and that are easy to avoid. But unless you know what they are, you don't know to avoid them. So, like you said,
you don't know. That's right.
Yeah. Password protection is a classic. Sharing on email, probably not the best way to do it. There are much better solutions out there. But I think it's the hand holding, isn't it, as well? And it's almost like business mentorship, I think, that goes along with that. So often, presumably, you're finding the first employee for a business, I suspect, in a lot of instances, and that's no mean feat, really. So I guess there's a lot of support that is needed often for new businesses that you can provide.
Well, yeah, and you said it. I mean, support is our core value. That is the main reason why people come to us, because we will give you every bit of support that you need. And also the virtual assistants that we recruit, we give them support in being the best VA that they can possibly be. We actually give them mentoring on how to be outstanding, because we want our VAs to stand out above everybody else. And every single client gets mentoring on how to avoid those common mistakes. Business mentoring, you just touched on that. How to be a great leader. When you're building a team, you are there to lead that team. So you've got to have leadership skills. So we give you all of that, and understanding the culture and how to grow and scale a business.
Yeah, no, that's smashing. I think, and once you start on that track, then there's a moment, a mental shift for me that happens. So I think anything can be then delegated. And I mean, I've not got there. I don't only do strategic work, but I'm on the path of getting to that point. Because you start on that thought process, and it's a bit of a game changer. And it's not every business owner needs to get to that point, I think. At least start on that track. So I'll reach that. Yeah.
And even as you start to grow and maybe start new businesses, and you start thinking, okay, so who are my business partners that I can joint venture with, perhaps? And what are the skills and things that I can do? So for me, it's this sort of thing. It's the marketing. It's talking to people. That's what I'm best at. And what are the things I'm not very good at? And you find somebody else perhaps that you can partner with. As a JV partner that's got complementary skills. So nowadays, I've got properties that I've never been to. I've got tenants that I've never met. I don't need to meet tenants, because I've got, as well as the outsourced VA team, I've got people here in the UK that can, meet the tenants, do the viewings, check people out, all that sort of stuff. Check, if maintenance work has been done, going around there and making sure that it's all done properly and this sort of thing. So I don't need to do that.
Yeah, brilliant. This just reminded me of a book, actually. I've read before, but I'm listening to this almost a sequel of it. It's by Dan Sullivan, I think it's called, but Who Not How.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I read it at all, but it's exactly that. So I think the normal reaction is, how do I do that? While it's not a bad question, the better question could be, who can do that for me?
Yeah.
And then once you ask that question, you can keep asking that question and keep asking that question, and then all of a sudden you've leveraged all sorts of things, like other people's knowledge, time, skill, experience, etc. And I think so. Asking who can do this for me, not how do I do this?
Yeah. And another thing is that you don't always have to pay for it.
Okay.
People like doing people pay. So if you've got the right sort of people around you, delegate to friends and family as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to cost you money.
Okay, well, I'll give that a go next time. See how I get on. I've really enjoyed this conversation. So I think we've talked about the basic principle of delegating, why it's so important, why it's crucial to get to your next level, wherever that may be. We've talked about the benefits potentially of a virtual assistant and in the Philippines. What's the next step for someone who wants to know more? So they're doing a bit of nodding on to the screen, understand the principles. What is the next step? What's the call to action for the person listening?
Yeah. So anybody that's listening that would like to find out a little bit more about this, then you can see on the ticker there, the website address is coming up, vavavum.solutions. So go to that website, and there is lots and lots of information on all of this stuff there. Recommendations on software, free downloads, all sorts of things there. And you can book a free discovery call in with me as well. So I think it's the top right hand corner. There's a button, schedule an appointment. Click on that, and you can book a free Zoom call, and we can have a chat and see what your individual situation is, and see if we may be able to help you.
Smashing. That sounds like a bit of a no-brainer. I think having a chat with you about the possibilities, I think this sounds amazing. So just to start to round up, talk to me a bit about what you're up to. Your future plans, your various businesses. I know you're an entrepreneur with many sort of businesses that run alongside each other. But what's your next 3 to 5 years, or what's your focus looking like now?
Okay, so yeah, I am a bit of a business junkie, a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So I'll tell you a couple of things, but other things I'd have to shoot you if I reveal too much.
Well, watch your social media.
So if you're watching my social media, actually, do you know Facebook have just frozen my account? And I've got 5,000 followers or something on Facebook, and they've just frozen my account because I think I might be a minor. I'm just trying to resolve that at the moment, and I just hope I can.
Sure you can.
But yeah, so we are next month we are introducing a virtual reception service. This is called Answer for Business, and this is where we will answer the phone as we are part of your business. So we're sat in your reception office. Okay, so it's more than a call answering service. We will take the call for you. We will hold lots of frequently asked questions, general knowledge, general information rather, on your business in front of us. So when the call comes in, we know we know that it's a call for your business. We'll answer it in your name, and then lots of those frequent questions we can answer for you. We can also, of course, transfer the call to whoever it is that you'd be asked for. We can be a gateway service as well. So if you don't want to be bothered by people randomly ringing your mobile phone, you divert that through to us, and then we will take that call. If somebody says, "Oh, can I speak to Chris, please?" Hang on, I'll just see if he's available. Who is it? Then we can call you on an alternative number, and you can decide if you want to take the call or not.
Oh, brilliant.
So that's Answer for Business. So that's that we're launching next month. As I say, I have got a couple of other things up my sleeve as well at the moment. But right now they've got to remain up my sleeve.
That's totally fine. No, maybe we'll catch up maybe this time next year, or who knows. I'm sure we'll find out in due course. But Richard, I'm just going to wrap up now, if that's okay. So I'm just going to sort of say thank you. I'll turn you off for a moment, and then I'll wrap up, and then that'll be that. So thanks for your time, Richard. I really appreciate you coming, and see you next time. So thank you for watching this episode. It's been an episode of Your Property Business. If you're getting value from this interview, please do show your appreciation by hitting subscribe or follow this podcast. My name is Chris Jones, and this has been Your Property Business. See you next time.